All right, we're going to get to our fourth and final game of the week in the divisional rounds. Tomorrow, as we know on the channels of Sportsbook Review, it is Football Friday. We'll do a complete rehash of all four of these games, but let's not wait any longer. Sunday, 4:40 kickoff. Down in the Dome, Nick Foles takes the traveling circus of the Philadelphia Eagles on the road to see if they can do some damage. And not easy, Teddy, to beat Drew Brees, especially in the playoffs in the Dome. Some interesting shenanigans going on here. The Eagles telling you, hey, don't look too much at that 48-7. We're a different ball club right now. Get a little bit healthier. New starting quarterback in there. And Sean Payton taking the tactic of saying, let's bring the Brinks truck in here. Let me show you $250,000 and a Super Bowl trophy and ask if you want this in order to win the Super Bowl here. I always like these motivational tactics by coaches this time of year. But the one thing we can't overlook is how well Nick Foles and the Eagles have played since he's been there, but also taking a look at a rested and ready Saints team at home. If we take a look at the past couple games, Teddy, that the Philadelphia Eagles have played, look, I mean, your defensive secondary is going to hold up against the Washington Redskins, right? Your defensive secondary is going to hold up against the Chicago Bears. Now you're going to be tested all the way through with a very good offensive line, Hall of Fame quarterback, two great running backs, and an elite passing game. Is that enough to propel the New Orleans Saints over? Or is this Nick Foles magic going to keep rolling along here, Teddy?
Well, is it an elite Saints passing game? That's the question that I want to ask right here, because certainly we talk about Drew Brees' ability to dump the ball out to Kamara has been really good. Certainly Michael Thomas has been a number one receiver all year long. In terms of the depth of weapons for New Orleans, maybe yes, maybe no. Now that first meeting, that 48-7, and I'll tell you flat out, I was on Philly in that ball game. I think it was my single worst bet of the entire season. And I was in a situation where, New Orleans is that they've won and covered all these in a row. They're not going to keep. There has to be a letdown at some point. And this Eagles team playing for their season, yada, yada. You know, the Eagles played for their season a lot this year. Didn't necessarily do too well in those ball games. But the situation for the Eagles in that ball game, they were coming off a divisional game. They were in a divisional sandwich with another one next. They had cluster injuries in the secondary. Those are not situations that Philly is in right now by any stretch of the imagination. We're talking about Nick Foles, who is the number one all-time QB rating in the playoffs. Prior to this game, we'll see how it finishes up, but going into the game, he's number one. Of course, Drew Brees is number 5 in that same category, a QB rating of over 100 all-time in the postseason, and Brees with a lot more postseason experience than Foles. We saw the Saints get a home game last year. They won. They did not cover against Carolina in their first-round matchup. This time off a bye, you do worry about the Saints offense being out of rhythm and out of sync. We saw that earlier in the season. They came off their bye. Remember that awful game offensively they played at Baltimore? They got the win and cover. They were not the right side in that game, certainly not at the end. So you do worry about the Saints offense being out of sync, but you also have to worry about the Philadelphia Eagles running out of gas. This is a team that's been on a nice run for a couple of weeks. Doing it in New Orleans on Sunday night is going to be a tall task for Philly. They're going to have to get much better pass rush this time around and get the ball out of Drew Brees' hands a bit quicker than it was in that first meeting. If they're going to hang around.
Always at the limit. Yeah. Always that dilemma that you have, Teddy, especially when you're betting the road team there. You have to remember that they were at Washington to end the season, at the Chicago Bears. Now they're going to go at the Dome against a team that's been rested, ready, and waiting for them. Because if we remember also, Teddy, before that, the Saints had a couple home games before they even took their bye week heading into the playoffs. So it should be fun